My name is Sarah McDonald, and this is Obsessions. Trigger warning for content that mentions the following topics: police brutality, brief discussions of mental illness and suicide, child abduction, missing persons, murder. The details of these horrible outrages seldom reach beyond the narrow world where they occur. Those who commit the murders write the reports, and hence these lasting blots upon the honor of a nation cause but a faint ripple on the outside world. They arouse no great indignation and call forth no adequate demand for justice. The victims were black, and the reports are so written as to make it appear that the helpless creatures deserved the fate which overtook them. Ida B. Wells, 1893. White people. Yes, black people know that all lives matter. But what I need you guys to understand is that being a black person in America is very, very hard. I am not racist. I grew up in Villa Park, Illinois, was the only black girl on an all-white cheerleading squad, so I had to learn how to deal with white people. But I want the white folks to understand out there, not all of us, but some of us, are really doing as much as we can. And we can't help but get pissed off when we see situations where it's clear the black life didn't matter. Because in the news that we've seen as of late, you could stand there, surrender to the cops, and still be killed. Sandra Bland, 2015. When you kill a black woman, oftentimes you kill a cornerstone of the community because there are a lot of people tied to her. Cheryl Neely for The Guardian, 2022. In 2014, a few months after I graduated from high school in Oklahoma, a few hours northeast in Ferguson, Missouri, a boy my age named Michael Brown was killed by police. His death was my introduction to the Black Lives Matter movement. I will never forget scrolling through my feed, watching footage of the protests happening in Ferguson. People often cite the murder of George Floyd as the time when people really began to start demanding justice from the police system, but for me and many others like me, Mike Brown's murder was the moment we woke up. Last week we saw the ways that structurally racist systems in the U.S. contributed and are still contributing to the genocide of the indigenous population of North America. This week, we're studying the ways that structural racism impacts what we consider to be crime itself. Specifically, we'll be looking at anti-black racism. For this episode, I reached out to my friend Trayvon Caesar, a talented journalist and activist.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trayvon Caesar. I usually go by the name Caesar only.
Hail Caesar.
I am a videographer and filmmaker, as well as a freshly made independent journalist. I work with Owl Media and Fear and Loathing, Closer to the Edge, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Substack.
You should watch all of that stuff. It's really good. You should be paying attention.
It's awesome. I'm gonna make a movie.
Do it.
My background is military. I'm a Marine. Aside from that, I am a really big movie buff, and also I love the idea of media literacy because art has a way of reflecting society as it's happening. They say life imitates art, and I think that art actually just illuminates life. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm sitting at right now. So what drew me to filmmaking originally was watching Jurassic Park as a child. Like the first scene where you see like the two, was it Brachiosaurus or were they Brontosauruses? I can't remember. Like just blew my mind as a child, and so I wanted to tell stories. As I grew up, movies like, The Predator, Alien, Apocalypse Now.
Yep.
Deer Hunter, Jacob's Ladder, like that was my whole vibe. Anything that was just like it was either scary, mess with you, or like had you like coming to grips with like really important questions when it came about to life. One of my favorite animated movies is The Prince of Egypt because it's awesome, and also
Yes. That's
people
the
watch
shit.
that movie and still miss so many things about it. It's like it's not just a Bible story. It's like literally like applies to everyday life. But
I listen
um,
to the metal version of the Plagues when I need to psych myself up.
I listen to that. I have that song on my playlist
It's
by the
good.
two YouTubers.
It's freaking good.
What got me into journalism was last year. A independent journalist, but an accidental activist, as a friend of mine once put it. But no, when Trump won the second election,
Hmm.
third election, he didn't win the second one. In 2024, my friend Chance made a Facebook post, and he was like, "You're all fucking idiots," and that was just that. That was just that post, like, "You're all fucking idiots," and I was like, "Bro, you good? Like, you okay?" And he started talking to me, and he was like, "I need to make a video. Can you film it for me?" So we sat down in his in an office, and he just went off for like 5 minutes talking about how like this is going like this is the beginning of like the darkest chapter in American history. And then we posted that. We did another one, and then we started doing a bunch more. And we were initially just doing YouTube videos that were like 12 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes long. We were sitting in a house editing and stuff like that, and it went from that to going to our first protest in Raleigh, North Carolina,
Yeah.
and it went from that to doing that like almost every other week to 2 weeks, and then that turned into going to DC, and then that turned into going to DC like every other month
Yeah.
or something.
You're there a lot.
And it just turned into like this year-long crusade. And now we had enough. We had made a decision very early on that we were going to do a documentary. We just didn't know what it was about. And I think come May, we understood what we wanted to do.
Hmm.
We started to film. We started putting everything together for a documentary just about the dissent that was going on in America
Hmm.
for the first year of the second Trump administration. And the film is called Days of Dissent, or The Days of Dissent. And yeah, we made a lot of friends. We met a lot of really cool people. They're Instagram influencers and activists that I've only known on my phone that I got to shake hands with and eat with and party with and drink with, and now some of them I call friend, which is very, very weird. If you ever get a chance to meet your Instagram heroes or something like that, or people that you have a parasocial relationship with, and you get to cross that boundary, it's a very weird feeling.
It is very
It's
weird.
like,
I've had that experience doing this podcast.
By now, you know I love statistics, so let's look at some relating to black femicide. Black women are among the U.S.'s most vulnerable populations. A study found that black women ages 25 to 44 are murdered at a rate of 11.6 per 100,000 versus white women's murder rate of 3 per 100,000. This statistic remained consistent between 1999 and 2020. According to The Guardian, quote, 5 black women and girls were murdered every day in 2020, end quote. A 2023 study found that black women are 1.4 times more likely to be murdered by police specifically than their white counterparts. The study says, quote, unfortunately, discussions about police violence rarely include black women's experiences or its impact on women's health, end quote. Why is this the case? At the risk of pointing out the obvious, racism is at the root of this issue. Chattel slavery is at the rotten core of the U.S.'s founding. This country, from its economy to the White House itself, was built on the backs of people that European colonizers stole from their homes, tortured, and enslaved. This contaminates the systems that our country built to govern itself, especially the justice system, because they are predicated on the idea that a certain demographic is subhuman. Only after decades of fighting for civil rights did Black Americans gain the status of personhood in the eyes of the law. This happened within living memory. My grandparents were born during segregation. My father was born 1 year after Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law. And no amount of legislation can cure the deep hatred that lurks within the bones of so many people. It's a known fact that the modern police force we know today in the U.S. had its infancy as slave catchers. According to the NAACP, quote, the origins of modern-day policing can be traced back to the slave patrol. The earliest formal slave patrol was created in the Carolinas in the early 1700s with one mission: to establish a system of terror and squash slave uprisings with the capacity to pursue, apprehend, and return runaway slaves to their owners. Tactics included the use of excessive force to control and produce desired slave behavior, end quote. The article goes on to quote The New Yorker, which says, quote, "The crisis in policing is the culmination of 1,000 other failures. Failures of education, social services, public health, gun regulation, criminal justice, and economic development," end quote. I asked Trayvon if all violence against Black people is ultimately state-sanctioned due to historical context.
There's a multifaceted answer to this, and the first part we have to address is it's not that all violence towards people of color, primarily Black people in this scenario, is attached to racism, but in fact that it all stems from capitalism. State-sanctioned violence against like people of color is a side effect of state-sanctioned violence against the poor. So essentially, there is white supremacy, which is a very powerful tool in capitalist society's tool belt, because while the goal is to make the rich richer, keep the poor poor, and make them poorer, it means everything to make sure that the dredge of society, the ones that you don't want to be in your league, people of color, to make sure that they are synonymous with the poor. And so if you already have a system that torments, tortures, and oppresses the poor and unfranchised, then it's so easy to just lump in the undesirables as well.
Right.
And in this scenario, that would be people of color. So yes, but also it's a little bit deeper than that.
Right.
So
if you squint,
I think that would be if you squint, like if you only focus on the racial aspect of it, yes.
But you can't,
but
because
once
they're all interconnected.
They're all interconnected, and racism is just a tool in the tool belt of the modern capitalist and imperialist. Yeah. So I don't know if I don't mean to turn this into like into a socialism class, but
you can. They probably need it.
The way racism works in America specifically is that you have a group of people that you don't often think about, but your system is still in place to where they are not allowed to, en masse, hit a certain level of income.
Right.
Some will inevitably make it to the crack because that is how capitalism works. Like there's always like lucky onesies and twosies that make it through. I mean, it's kind of why we created the American dream, because it's like anyone can make it. It just takes.
It's just that the game is
a
rigged.
plethora of stuff, and the game is consistently rigged. And then you got this homogenization of this is where you created the concept of whiteness.
Yep.
You made an interesting comment where you say like most of these kids haven't seen a Black person since they come to school, and it's like you would be surprised how much of that circumstance right there is the root of so many interactions that people have with people of color. And it's the fact it's like for a lot of people, that for more people than you would care to understand, a lot of people's first and only interactions with people of color is television and music. And so if you live in like Ada, Oklahoma or some stuff like that, or Enid. Now, it's been years since I've been in those places. Like, I could be completely wrong when it comes to how many Black people are there. But it's like, when I went there, it was like very white. But it's like when your interactions with people of color are so few and far between, and none of them have any substance. Like, you never like spent the weekend or a reasonable amount of time with them to understand them, who they are as people. But you do have access to their culture. You do have access to the media portrayals of them. That becomes who they are to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who like used to watch a lot of '90s crime thrillers and
Mm-hmm.
listen to exclusively '90s R&B and stuff like that and hip hop. So when they, in their mind, they have this amalgamation of like a black person that is both highly sexualized but also like very like gangster. And that's just what all black men were to that person until they met them. And it's like, oh, okay, so there's country black guys, there's like more ethnic black guys, there's like calm black guys, there's hyper aggressive black guys. It's like, yeah, no, we're a whole spectrum. We're not a monolith.
It's almost like they're
So,
human or
but it,
something.
yeah, yeah, it's like they're human, right? But it's like a person's experience is like 70% of like what their like outlook is. So, and that also applies to racism and stuff like that because when again when your only interactions with a different culture is through, the media, and that's it, it's very easy to have like stereotypes and a belief system put upon you, and eventually you do adopt that as your own because that's all you know. And then when you're challenged on it, to you, you might seem like, oh no, I don't mean that to be like mean or rude, but then you're being told constantly, hey, you're being mean and rude. You're being a
Mm-hmm.
bad person. You're being a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
And so like your only reaction is to defend yourself and like, no, no. And then like you have two choices. It's either you sit down and have a conversation and learn to understand, okay, this is what you mean by that, or you fully go full clamshell, roll away to people that look like you
Mm-hmm.
that will tell you, no, you did nothing wrong. You're
Yep.
not a bad person. It's them over there. And now the racism starts to grow. Now the racism develops. What was originally just an initial like an inherited bias now becomes racism. And that's for the casual racists. Like
Yeah.
that's not really, this doesn't apply to everybody, but that's for like the casual like white person that like has black friends
Yeah.
or like understands that, oh no, I would never call someone the N-word or burn a cross in the yard or hang them from a tree. I think that's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But then we'll, justify Ahmaud Arbery's murder. And then ultimately it's how you respond to being called out is what ultimately dictates whether you are just, you know, culturally mistaken or an actual racist.
Yeah.
Which ultimately it's all racism, but like, there's levels to this shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my little spiel on that.
This isn't on the form, but do you feel like the casual racism is almost more insidious? Because I've seen that take before.
Casual racism is more insidious only because of the ease of access to it. Like it's like let's look at the object. Let's look at the subject of the firearms. It's like while we all focus on AR-15s, which one actually which firearm causes the most actual damage? It's a basic handgun.
Yeah.
Like like there are more deaths from a basic handgun in the U.S. than the AR-15. But because AR-15 is like the big thing in the news and is usually used in school shootings, that's the one we focus on. It's like yeah, like whereas like active like political racism that has like actually like oppressed people is like the big thing that we're looking for. It's the casual racism that ultimately causes the most problems. Most people who are casually racist don't even consider it racism. They just it's just edgy jokes.
Yeah.
It's oh no, my boy lets me do that, so it's okay, or I have the N-word pass or stuff like that. Um, we have to get back to policing each other and also policing our friends because um, if you really love your friends, you're not going to do anything that would like cause any kind of emotional distress or physical pain. So and the only way you can know that is if they let you know you're doing it when you do it. So that's something that I've come to learn in my venerated young old manhood of the 30s. Um, because
Yes, you're
that's the thing.
so
It's like,
ancient.
yeah, oh God, yeah. Uncle Sam,
I'm
like,
gonna carry you on my back up the mountain like in holes.
Yeah. I was thinking Samwise and Frodo, but
Which one's which, though?
I can't carry you, but I can carry you.
I'm Sam? Okay.
Um, and I'm sitting there like it's so easy because to you, you're like, we're just having fun. Like it's in the song, it's fine, it's yada yada yada. But what we don't realize is that while we're kids, like those young white men, those young white boys who are, laughing, smoking, and joking and saying the N-word with you in a song will eventually become the senators that will disregard your plight because racism doesn't exist anymore. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know what you're talking about, or it's not a big deal. Like, and then we'll deflect when they say, I can't be racist. I have black friends. We used to sing all the rap songs in the boys' locker room after basketball games. And I was like, there's the jump.
I think it comes down to what Brennan Lee Mulligan said in Dimension 20 Fantasy High. Quote, laws are threats made by the dominant socioeconomic ethnic group in a given nation. It's just the promise of violence that's enacted, and the police are basically an occupying army. End quote. Before we get into the cases, I'd like to review the dark other archetype from Ebony Elizabeth Thomas's The Dark Fantastic. Thomas writes, quote, the default position is to allow those who are used to seeing themselves as heroic and desired the power and privilege of naming, defining, and delimiting the entire world and everything that is in it. We never notice that monsters, fantastic beasts, and various dark others are silenced because we have never been taught the language that they speak. End quote. Thomas goes on to say, quote, in the Anglo-American fantastic tradition, the dark other is the spectacle, the monstrous thing that is at the root cause of hesitation, ambivalence, and the uncanny. The dark other is the present absence that lingers at the edges of every fairy tale. She stalks the shadows of the futurist visions of science fiction, lurks along the margins of the imagined magical pasts of high fantasy, and renders the Uchronia of alternate history into a nonsensical cipher. The implicit message that readers, hearers, and viewers of color receive as they read these texts is that we are the villains. We are the horde. We are the enemies. We are the monsters. End quote. We see this play out in cases involving black women, particularly in the way law enforcement handles their cases. First, I'd like to acquaint everyone with the concept of missing white woman syndrome. Put simply, this is the media frenzy that follows when a white woman or girl disappears. Women of color don't get the same treatment in the media. Trayvon and I discussed it at length here.
Well, this kind of goes back to, what I said earlier. There is an inherent value that white men put on white women
Yep.
because they need to continuously have breeding mares.
Because we're
And
property.
that's how white men look at y'all. I keep
Hmm.
telling you. So yeah, so as much as like some rich billionaire playboy likes to bang black women because he loves him some chocolate, at the end of the day, he has to perpetuate the white race.
Hmm.
When any woman goes missing, it's a tragedy, right? But when a white woman goes missing, it's national fucking news
Hmm.
because oh no, we lost one. It's like
Hmm.
oh, one of my sheep, I lost one of my cows, and they just go after it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Um, there is a level of privilege that white women have, but even with all that privilege, they still have to remember that they're still a minority, just like the rest of us. And your privilege only goes so far. So you'll get like the maximum amount of protection,
Hmm.
which isn't very much in
Right.
the grand scheme of things, but it's still the maximum. But you'll also get like the minimum level of like maltreatment until it's deemed necessary to go further. White women in distress have been used historically to
Hmm.
oppress people of
Yep.
color, primarily men, throughout American history. I mean, like one of the first films in American history, Birth of a Nation,
Hmm.
one of the key aspects of that film is the black savage,
Yeah.
whose whole goal is to start fights and rape white women. That's the whole point of his existence. It gives birth to the KKK in the movie, and they ride in like knights of yore, like just saving white women from black savages, and it's like the most disgusting thing in the world.
Hmm.
We have the historic slaying of Emmett Till,
Yes.
um, we because he whistled at a white woman. We have the burning down of Tulsa because
Yes.
of a white woman in an elevator. Like we even have a new term for it, white woman tears. It's like white woman
Hmm.
tears are like a prime weapon against people of color. So it's like, so it's not just when a white woman goes missing, it's like, oh no, we've lost one of our, like, one of our commodities. It's we've also lost one of our weapons.
Yeah.
It's like losing a gun. And the goal is to never let the white women know that they still have shackles, but continuously tell them that that they're free, that they have the most freedom, or stuff like that, or everything's fine. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Close your eyes real quick,
Closing.
and I want you to imagine a little girl. Like, imagine a normal little girl.
Hmm.
All right, open your eyes real quick.
Hmm.
Open your eyes.
Yep.
All right, tell me, what did you envision? Describe who you envisioned.
Curly brown hair, hazel eyes, maybe some freckles.
Okay, but what color was she?
She was white. I know.
Okay.
I'm walking my viewers through that exercise too.
Yeah, no, it's like so that was your default, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with what you just did. Nothing wrong with that. But it's like what you see as default resonates more with you
Yep.
than what you see as other. White people are still the majority population, right? Inherently, they don't really see a lot of people of color where they're like in their personal lives, right? So
Yeah.
there's no sense of familiarity. There's no sense of familiarity with them.
Especially in
So,
flyover states.
especially in flyover states. So, and this is only a facet. So when there's that aspect of like, oh no, a white child went missing, there's that initial like, that could be my child.
Yep.
And now they're more emotionally invested.
Yep.
And it's easy to fall into that. And that's a more natural, like,
Hmm.
not as problematic aspect of it.
Hmm.
But now you add what we talked about earlier.
Right.
So it's like now you have like this is where the media comes into aspect. This is where the media part comes into play
Hmm.
that because on a base level, when a child goes missing, every parent in the room, it doesn't matter what color they are, feels that. It's like, oh no, like everyone gets motivated for that. But this is where the system gets bad.
Yeah.
So it's like the system is like the media is like, oh well, our like that's a small white child. Um, that's gonna like get us maximum exposure. That's gonna get maximum viewership, all that type of stuff. And that's all like rooted in money and stuff like that.
Yeah, it
Because if it
is.
bleeds, it leads.
Hmm.
But if it's white and bleeds, blood is more visible on white paper than it is black.
Hmm.
A great example of this disparity are the cases of Georgia Leah Moses and Polly Kloss. Polly Kloss was a 12-year-old girl who was violently abducted from her home during a slumber party on October 1st, 1993 in Petaluma, California. Her remains were quickly located and identified, and her murderer was brought to swift justice. Alex Johnson cited her disappearance as one of many examples of cases garnering disproportionate media coverage in an article for NBC in 2004. Johnson reported, quote, "Such cases fit a convenient narrative pattern that storytellers have used for more than a century, a pattern whose design still incorporates remnants of an outmoded view of women and black people and their roles in society. In many, many cities, going back 50, 75 years or more, journalists would refer to good murders and bad murders," Clark said, explaining how editors and reporters choose what police stories to cover. The example of a bad murder would be the murder of an African American person from a poor neighborhood, he said. The definition of a good murder is a socialite killed by her jealous husband, the debutante murdered by her angry boyfriend. When it comes to police stories, Clark said, there is this perverted racist view of the world. White is good. Black is bad. Blonde is good. Dark is bad. Young is good. Old is bad. And I think we can find versions of this story going back to the tabloid wars more than 100 years ago. End quote. To be clear, it is a good thing that Polly Kloss's case got the coverage it needed, that she was found, and that her killer was caught and punished. I just happen to think that Georgia Moses deserved the same treatment. Georgia was also 12 when she went missing in August of 1997. She was like a mother to her little sister Angel. She was simply hanging out with a friend when she was contacted via her pager and left her friend's house. 9 days later, on August 22nd, her remains were discovered on the side of a highway in Petaluma. However, her case remains unsolved. Angel Turner, Georgia's sister, has been fighting an uphill battle to bring her sister justice. There's been so much misinformation spread that has taken her years to sift through. They even used to report her name wrong, calling her Georgia Lee. I recommend Kendall Ray's coverage of the case or checking out the many resources available via the website Angel Turner maintains in honor of her sister, which will be found in the show notes. Despite the fact that these were both 12-year-old girls who were known and loved, who lived near each other, and tragically were killed within the same decade, the glaring differences in the way Georgia's case was initially dismissed as a runaway, the fact that her body was held for almost a year before she could be given a proper funeral, and yet there was still no significant movement in the case, and the lack of reporting and misinformation surrounding her case make this an excellent candidate for the missing white woman syndrome discussion. Last episode, we saw how police often believe and repeat stereotypes about Indigenous people in order to justify not investigating their disappearances. This is more of the same. Angel Turner wrote on the website she maintains for Georgia's case, quote, 23 years ago, I would never have imagined I would be pleading with the political officials to care about my sister enough to give her case the proper due diligence of a thorough investigation, end quote. And it only gets worse. Mitrice Richardson was a 24-year-old woman with a rich, full life ahead of her in September of 2009. She was in a loving relationship with her girlfriend and had a BA in psychology from CSU Fullerton. On September 16th, Mitrice went to a restaurant in Malibu where she was described as behaving erratically. So erratically that the police were contacted by staff. Apparently, she either would not or could not pay her bill, and was subsequently arrested and taken to the Malibu Lost Hills Sheriff's Station to be booked and processed. Her mother was deeply concerned for Mitrice's mental state, as any parent would be, and the staff reassured her that Mitrice wouldn't be released until later the following day. This was not to be. Mitrice Richardson was released from the sheriff's station without any belongings or means of contacting anyone around 12:30 a.m. on September 17, 2009. She opted not to wait in the lobby and wandered into the night. According to staff, she exhibited, quote, no signs of mental illness, end quote. It took 4 months for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to launch a search for Mitrice. It took nearly a year for them to find her deceased in Malibu Canyon. Her death was not considered a homicide due to lack of evidence. Whatever Mitrice's cause of death, the fact is, she was exhibiting erratic behavior such that the police took her in. So she should never have been released under circumstances where she had no way to contact anyone in the middle of the night, not while she was under their care and jurisdiction. That's what her parents argued when they each filed separate wrongful death lawsuits against the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and won. The money won't bring their daughter back. One of the most horrifying cases I've come across so far since researching this podcast is the case of Sandra Bland. What happened to her was calculated, cruel, and preventable, in my personal opinion. Sandra Bland went by Sandy. In the summer of 2015, when she was 28, she decided she wanted to move back to Texas. She moved to Texas initially to attend college, where she had many friends and was active in the community. She moved back to Chicago after graduation to be closer to her family. The youngest of 4 girls, Sandy was passionate and driven, with strong morals. She quit a good position at a company that manufactured plastic cafeteria dinnerware because its primary clientele was the U.S.'s for-profit prison system. For a while, she was struggling to find a career, so she made one herself. Sandy Speaks was Sandy's social media project. She filmed videos and posted them to Facebook, talking to people about her beliefs and giving people advice. Every word she spoke in those videos, according to those around her, came from a desire within her to do good. She said in her own videos, quote, I'm here to change history, end quote. So on July 8th, 2015, she was thrilled when she got the job she wanted in Texas and called her mother to discuss her plans to move down there and pursue a graduate degree in political science. Most of all, Sandy wanted to make a difference in the Black community. Her mother, Geneva, claims Sandy told her she wanted to go back because she said, quote, My purpose is to go back to Texas and stop all the injustices against blacks, end quote. By July 11th, Sandy was in Waller County Jail. I watched Say Her Name, the documentary about Sandy's story available on HBO Max for this episode. Ordinarily, I try not to delve into the case details, and I will refrain from being graphic about Sandy's ordeal, but I also feel it's important to impress upon you the circumstances that led to her death. Between bystander video and dashcam footage of Sandy's traffic stop, this is my approximation of what happened to Sandy on July 11th, 2015 in Waller County, Texas. Sandy is pulled over for failure to signal a lane change. The officer comments that she seems irritated, to which Sandy affirms that she is, because she felt the cop was, quote, tailing her, end quote, and she was only trying to get out of his way. The cop sarcastically replies, quote, "Are you done?" end quote. He then asks Sandy to put out her cigarette. Sandy asks why she has to put out her cigarette in her own car. The cop demands for Sandy to get out of her vehicle, to which Sandy replies correctly that she doesn't have to. At this point, the cop's behavior escalates. He begins yelling. Sandy asks if she's being arrested for failure to signal, and he slaps her, repeatedly trying to physically remove her from her car. She asks over and over what she's being arrested for, and the cop refuses to answer. He then pulls his gun on her, at which point she exits the vehicle and the two move off camera, where the cop can be heard violently assaulting Sandy. In the bystander video, she can be seen loudly trying to explain to the officers that they slammed her head into the ground and she's too disoriented to follow their instructions. They simply shout at her. From this patch of road, Sandy was taken to Waller County Jail, where she contacted her family. Her mother was attempting to get the money for her bond. By July 13th, Sandra Bland was deceased in her cell. Her death was ruled a suicide. Facts about her time at the jail don't add up. Her mother claims she was never contacted by the authorities about Sandy's death. She was kept alone in a large jail cell with no cameras recording her movements inside it. None of the footage the family was shown had dates or timestamps visible. Supposedly, Sandy made over 20 phone calls, but they, quote, don't know which phones she used to make those calls, end quote. The trash bag used to create the noose she supposedly used had no DNA or fingerprints on it at all. The jail claimed that she had copious amounts of marijuana in her system that could have led her to some kind of mental break to take her own life. However, her family has never been convinced. After watching the documentary, I can understand why. The chief of police had complaints against him citing racial insensitivity even after participating in specialized training to mitigate the issue. In the documentary, he's quoted as saying of the incident with Sandy, quote, "By God, don't violate the law or we'll get you," end quote. Sandy was stopped for failure to signal. It was a non-violent, routine misdemeanor offense that should have been resolved in 30 minutes. Well, at least I think so. District Attorney Elton Mathis disagrees. He said of the incident, quote, "It was not a model traffic stop, and it was not a model person who was stopped on a traffic stop," end quote. So, because Sandy had a nonviolent record and committed a nonviolent traffic offense and was irritated about being pulled over for the kind of thing that plenty of people, including straight troopers, by the way, hey, Governor Stitt, ya boys can't drive, do in front of me on the commute to the university on I-40 every single day without consequences, she deserved to be assaulted, screamed at, threatened with deadly force, arrested, thrown in jail, had her entire future jeopardized with false accusations of assaulting a police officer, humiliated on the side of a road, and if the county sheriff's office is to be believed, driven to the point of suicide and had those circumstances facilitated for her. That's the story we're going with, huh, Elton? That's super weird, bro, because I heard one of your boys, Alex Kessam, got taken in for drug trafficking and money laundering in a marked police car. Man, that's some audacity, ain't it, Elton? And what did you have to say about him? It's okay if you don't remember. I have the quote right here. Quote, "Mr. Kessam has been a valuable employee, and that makes his indictment and subsequent conviction all the more difficult on a personal level," end quote. Alex Kessam must be a model citizen, huh, Elton? They must have got this one wrong. Except they didn't, did they, Elton? At least that's not what the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Texas said in August of 2024, was it? Quote, during the trial, audio and visual recordings were presented of each transaction and related text messages. The jury also saw bank records of cash deposits made to Kessem's personal account after each payment. Kessem took the stand in his own defense, claiming he had the authority to commit these crimes. Kessem also maintained that he received implicit approval from the Waller County DA to conduct undercover investigations as part of his role of the DA's office. However, the jury heard testimony from his former employer, which refuted those statements. The jury ultimately did not believe those claims and found him guilty. Kessem will remain in custody pending transfer to a U.S. Bureau of Prisons facility to be determined in the near future, end quote. Man, the skin of your teeth has been doing a lot of heavy lifting, hasn't it, Elton? Now, I'm not implying anything other than this. I happen to think it's awfully rich of a man like Elton Mathis to tell us that Sandy Bland was no angel because she was pulled over for failure to signal, and Chief Smith's boys' people skills start and end with brandishing their weapons and screaming when he's got plenty of his own mess to deal with. Toward the end of the documentary, he makes this quaint little speech about how nobody in Chicago or New York will listen to him because he's a good old Southern boy. Elton Sugar, this one's for you. My daddy's from Texas and I was born just north of ways. I want you to understand something. People don't think you're a liar because you're a conservative from Texas with an accent. It ain't helping your case, but that's not why. They think you're a liar because you were asked to answer for the discrepancies in Sandy's case, and your response was to bend over backwards to blame her when all of us saw the tape. We have eyes. We know what that man did to her, and we know it was unnecessary force. She never should have been in that jail in the first place, and I won't sport with your intelligence by pretending you don't know just as well as I do. The documentary stated, quote, the Sandra Bland Act is now a law in Texas mandating statewide reforms to increase prison inmate safety. Police de-escalation training was removed from the bill, end quote. All charges against the officer who assaulted Sandy have been dismissed. This week's episode is going to be a little different. Instead of just my analysis of the films and book we'll be covering, I'm going to include extended portions of my discussion with Trayvon about these pieces. He's one of the smartest people I've ever had the privilege to meet, and with his degree in film, he's particularly qualified with these discussions. Without further ado, please enjoy our edited musings.
So the media I chose for this particular episode was The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, Get Out, which is, of course, Jordan Peele, and Candyman. And
The remake or the original?
The original.
Okay.
And
I mean, they're both good.
They're both good.
Yeah.
But I just saw the original first, and that's the one that got me. So, basically, I just want to know, like, how you feel about how those pieces, if you're familiar with them, reflect the anxieties of existing while Black in America, and how accurately you feel like.
Well, between the three films, like I'm more familiar with Candyman and Get Out. But Candyman, I've seen so many different video essays on Candyman, and it's suddenly all the knowledge from all those video essays have suddenly vacated my brain as it came up. Like, oh, it was this really awesome point. But there's this aspect of like white curiosity.
Yeah.
In the first Candyman movie, where it's like you have like this woman who's very curious about like, you know, the story. And so she goes in and like she actually goes in and like gets in the culture, like embraced in the culture and stuff like that.
I know.
But there's also like this level of like she's still othered, and like she also still others them, or the people around her others them in Cabrini Green. And there's also like, you know, the gentrification thing and that whole situation. But it's the aspect of like how it isn't until her demise
Yep.
at the end of the film where like now suddenly there's this huge uptick in like investigation. There's like it isn't until her involvement where like now suddenly like there's a big spotlight put on Cabrini Green when it comes to the Candyman copycat killers and stuff like that or any of the other situations. It isn't until her involvement where like anyone gives a fuck about Cabrini Green for that matter. And it's like I think that was an interesting little tidbit where it's just like it isn't until like the white woman gets involved that suddenly like people
Yep.
start noticing shit.
That's why it's
Um
included.
yeah. Or like you like there's like the guy who gives her the black eye
Hmm.
and like we don't it's implied that at least to me that it's implied that like more things are done to her when she gets like assaulted
Yeah.
and like and she has to like pick the lineup of who did it and stuff like that. It's
Hmm.
like that guy probably did it to so many women in that complex, but it isn't until she gets hit that like now suddenly we can start investigating and do some stuff. It's like that was a key thing that I noticed. I was
Hmm.
like this little kid knew about this guy
Hmm.
and knows what this guy does
Yep.
all the time. And then suddenly when she gets involved, now something is done about it. This guy's probably been doing this to so many different people. And that's a thing that happens in real life too. It's like there are like that despite the fact that like black communities are over policed and stuff like that, the amount of crime that happens in like, impoverished black neighborhoods and stuff like that, like it's so there's a level of like not ease, but like there's a higher chance of like, just crime happening and it never gets addressed
Yeah.
because people just don't really give a shit until someone else from outside gets done dirty and it's like, all right, now we gotta mobilize, now we gotta send in the squads, now we gotta like, do all this stuff. It's like nothing gets done unless something like a white person gets involved. And that should be just as like jarring as a mystical magical Negro with like bee powers coming up and slaughtering people by saying his name 5 times in the mirror. Like, which is more believable at that point? It's like nothing getting done unless a white woman's involved or the Candyman existing. Both are like complete anomalies in the system. Or it's in the end where she dies, and like she almost dies a villain when it comes to the people of Cabrini Green because they think she kidnapped the baby and was about
Yeah.
to, but then like, she saves the child's life or whatever, and it's like there becomes like this whole like savior thing that happens. But like even then, like her death slash sacrifice. What people don't realize, she replaces Candyman at the end of that movie. By the way,
Yeah.
like people like so there's something that I got mad about in the remake that they didn't continue. Like she replaces Candyman.
Yeah.
Like she takes him out and she becomes the new version based on and it's like there's a cycle of like she died a villain despite the fact she did nothing wrong, which is like the overarching thing on like what happens to him. He
Hmm.
died a villain even though
Right.
he did nothing wrong because of injustice. So that was kind of like another thing where they commented on like the plight of that was kind of like a comment on the plight of women too. It's like the same thing happened to this black man, and now it's happening to this woman, and she just happens to be white. It's like you are a minority too. You will suffer the same fate.
Hmm.
You will be vilified if the story is not out. So and that was the thing that was crazy to me as well. Um, but yeah, that's something that I noticed it. But it took like a white woman investigating to get any of that plot to happen, like because apparently he'd been terrorizing all those people all that time, and nothing was being done. When it comes to Get Out was a commentary on more like moderate slash liberal white people than it was like white people
Hmm.
because it was the other side of the racism coin. It was the oh I voted for Obama 2 times comment or I think that like black athletes are superior to white athletes. It's like now you're just doing racism but backwards and
Yeah.
that's still racist. But it also it focuses on the fetishization of black men because that is also a thing. The fetishization of black men has been just as much damaging to the black community as is like the outright mistreatment of black men. Um, our bodies have been a commodity for white supremacy since they discovered us. So it's it's so crazy to see what was once a tool of abuse being flipped on its head as like this fetish that is to them rooted in admiration, but is actually rooted in like jealousy
Yeah.
and uh guilt, where it's like, like I want what you have. I just don't want to be. e- Everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga. It's like that's how you gotta put it. It's like everybody wants to be a gangster, but nobody wants to be a gangster. Stuff like that. It's like uh, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. It's like we
Right.
want all the privileges and the abilities and powers, but we don't want the experience. And like that's a weird way to like live
It
as a
is.
person, to be jealous of the ability, but then it completely ignore why the ability exists, or what gave birth to that ability. Um, I don't know, man. It's. I think that's Jordan Peele captured that the most. Like, so for a white person to like inhabit a black body and get all the benefits, but none of the negative side effects, because like notice they don't get to leave that neighborhood. So it's like they get to still, so they get to keep their white privilege in as far as they still live in that same neighborhood and society where they know who each other, they know who they all are,
Hmm.
but they also get like the added benefits of like what a black body gives them.
Right.
And so it's a twofold lesson there, because that's how how liberal or moderate liberal white people look at black people, and how black conservatives see themselves.
Hmm.
And it's like black conservatives wish the world was like that because of how they exist in white society, where it's like, oh no, racism doesn't exist. I see, look at me, look how they treat me, look how I'm good. Like, I'm good. I haven't experienced racism. It doesn't exist. Stop being a victim. And it's like, bro, like as soon as you go outside, like as soon as you go outside in the wrong area, you catching a hard R real quick, and you'll be
Hmm.
reminded where, like, just who the fuck you are. But if you never leave that area, if you never leave that insulated society that has embraced you, or at least claims to have embraced you, that's the whole point of the sunken place. It's like you're in the sunken place, like you're there, like you conduct yourself as one of them, and you're accepted as one of them as long as you stay there. But the minute you leave that neighborhood, or you cross the line, or you know what was I think if you I don't know if you ever saw the original ending for that movie, where like he's choking his girlfriend at the end and the police sirens come up. The original ending is those are actual cops and he gets in trouble or gets killed or whatever. They changed that ending and it's his homeboy. But but it's like as soon as you step in the line, you go back to being just you're a black guy again.
Hmm.
And you suffer the fate of a black guy in society. Um so that was the cool lesson, or like imagery that I got from Get Out, that I love so much. The Hate You Give, I've seen it once, but I just don't remember too much about it.
Did you read the book?
But I know there is like this, like it's like isn't it more like generational trauma and stuff like that,
The Hate You Give is about so I
or
read the
abuse or
book.
something.
I read the book and then
No,
watched the
yeah,
film. So
I was like, they didn't make a
it's
movie of that, right?
about
Okay.
a young girl who has lost two people to gun violence, and the more immediate focus is that her friend Khalil, a black man, a black teenager, was pulled over while she was in the car by a police officer and was shot and killed by that
Mm,
police officer, and he aimed his gun at her as well. And it's about her struggle to tell that story, and finding her voice to tell that story, and also her confronting things like code switching and casual racism that she experiences at the private school that she attends outside of her neighborhood of Garden Heights. And
Hmm.
it's very, very, very good. It came out, gosh, I think the book came out around the time that everything went down in Ferguson, like right after.
Hmm.
Um, and then the film came out a few years after that. I liked that she made the author, she made the intentional choice to have the narrator only refer to the police officer. We never get his name. He's only referred to by his badge number. Um, and there's a particularly powerful scene where the main character, Star, her name is Star Carter. She has this white best friend who's a massive bitch, and she is played by Sabrina Carpenter in the movie. And then
Oh yes. Yes.
the main character, Star, is played by the same girl that played Rue in the Hunger Games.
Okay, yeah.
And she's fantastic. And she Star is talking to her friend Haley about the incident with Khalil. So Star is talking to her friend Haley about what happened to Khalil, and Haley is like, "Well, he had a weapon," which he didn't, obviously.
Mm.
And Star is like, "I was." She still hasn't revealed that she was there to anyone.
Oh.
All her appearances, like public interviews and things like that, have been anonymous, to protect her identity because she's scared because there's gang activity in their neighborhood and it's like a whole thing. Haley's like, "He had a weapon," and she's like, "No, he didn't. It was a hairbrush." And Haley's like, "Well, maybe it looked like a weapon." And Star is like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "I'm saying that maybe like in his hands the cop thought it was a weapon." And so in the movie, in the book she just punches her, and I'm like, hell yeah. In the movie, she takes out a hairbrush from her backpack and starts going at her like she's a cop, holding the hairbrush, like
Mm.
going like, "Get down on the ground, get down on the ground, little girl, stop crying," and like yelling at her like she's a cop, and then throws the
Mm.
hairbrush down next to her and says, "In does it look like a weapon now?" And then walks away.
The Black Revolutionary in me was like, why didn't you just keep the punching me in the face
I know,
scene?
I
But at the
know,
same time, like, I get it, I get it. You gotta send the message home. I know, I know. Mm.
I know
Um,
why they made the adaptational change, but I wish that they had just kept the punching, because that
or they could have done both.
they could have done both. ¿Por qué no los
Done both.
dos? Come on.
¿Por qué no los dos? But no, but yeah, no, it's crazy how I've learned this about when it comes to law enforcement and how people view law enforcement. We were all raised to see law enforcement as heroes or like these people that protect us. When you really think about it in the history of law enforcement, the whole protect and serve thing is a fresh moniker that didn't used to exist on their cars, and it still isn't a part of their actual job description. They protect property.
Yeah.
That's what police protect.
And they don't
So
even do that
this whole,
well. Like,
I know, right? You gotta call the National Guard to do that shit. The way we as society look at police officers, at least how we're taught to look at police officers, versus the reality of how each portion of society looks at them. The black community doesn't trust police officers. Doesn't matter what race the police officer is, by the way.
no.
Like that's the thing that I can't like. For some reason, I talk to MAGA people, and they always refer to, well, what about black cops? I'm like, we see them the same. We don't trust the profession. The racial thing comes into how they deal with suspects, but the professional distrust comes from all of them. This is a privilege you have where like you don't have to like think about things like that, whereas we constantly have to. And so that's why it doesn't resonate or, click. But it's like because of that, the way that we're raised to look at police officers, white folks always give police the benefit of the doubt, whereas criminals are never given the benefit of the doubt, or people suspects are never given benefit of the doubt. It doesn't matter who the suspect is or what they look like. like just white people are to just always automatically side with police
Yes.
now. And the best way to look at this is like the Renee Good
Yes.
slang. It's like
Which was the next
the
thing we
fact
were
that
going to
like
talk about. So,
yeah, the initial reaction is to side with law enforcement, say the cop was at fault, or the ICE agent was at fault, or she was at fault. It was one of the two. And like depending on how you look at things and what your cultural background is, the scales are weighed a certain way. I have never seen white folks this divided on shit until like Renee got shot, and I was like, "Yo, Chrissy Noman, the president, to come in and be like, no, 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 it was her fault." So I reassure them immediately before the body was cold. By the way, body wasn't even cold before they came out. It was like, "Nah, it was her fault. She's a terrorist." And these are the same people who constantly say things like "Don't tread on me" or "Fight the power" and like
oh,
or like "Yeehaw, fuck the law." And I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Like you can't sit there and be like full on give rebel behavior, but then as soon as authority comes in, it's like, oh nope, do what they say. Just comply at all times. You know, like you gotta you're like
like you had
if
a
you did what
different
you were asked,
opinion when they
something
came
bad
for
would
your
have happened.
meth lab, Larry.
Oh, the same people who were screaming during the pandemic, they can't make us wear masks. They can't make us not go outside. My rights, my rights, my rights. As soon as it happened to somebody else, man, you should have just did what you were told.
Like
Should have just complied.
I fear that the money that you owe to child support has not been spent on bettering yourself. I fear.
So to white people, yeah, serve and protect makes sense because that was always the point. But for everyone else, it's like, nah, dude, like, so now you've got poor people, you got poor white people and poor people of color fighting each other all the goddamn time. And then law enforcement supports the poor white folks while still oppressing them, but supports the poor white folks to
Mm-hmm.
protect the rich white folks.
It's repeating.
And
It's a repeating cycle because they're
yeah,
literally
it's a
doing it.
repeat.
Because, like what you said
Yeah.
about the slave catchers, so they did that. They were like, "Hey, Irish people, do you want to be white? Here's a police officer uniform. Go catch some slaves." Now they're doing the same thing to poor white people. They're like, "Hey, you're a poor white person. See that guy? He's brown. He stole your job. Go get him." They're doing the
Yeah.
same
He's,
goddamn
he's
thing,
like, he's the reason why your life sucks.
basically.
Because it's weird. Like white privilege is the thing that like poor white people like demand to have, but also don't believe exists.
Yeah.
I don't believe it exists, but my life should be great. It could be. It's like, but before we get to that, but before you learn why your life sucks, it's just because this the way the system works. Someone important's gonna be like, nope, your life sucks because of them over there. If I was constantly seen as oh wait, it's like if I was constantly seen as a villain, oh wait. uh,
I've known Trayvon since we were in high school. Here's where he can be found.
if you want to hear more from me, or
Which you
really not even
should.
from me,
You
but like
should hear more from
from my
him.
friends and I, and see the stories that we tell. You can follow us on YouTube at Owl Media. It's one word, Owl Media, one word. The O and the M are both capitalized because I found there's a bunch of Owl Medias on YouTube and it's ridiculous, but ours is like uh, it's so weird finding us on YouTube. I gotta sit here and make sure I typed it in right. It's like so it's like capital O, Owl, capital M, Media. Yeah, we'll be the second one. It's like, but it's all one word, and the O and M are capitalized. That's how you differentiate us from the rest. You can find us off on YouTube, Instagram, Substack. I'm also doing a lot of stuff with Fear and Loathing,
Mhm.
Closer to the Edge. Um, it's a cool. I don't know if you ever heard of the Sons of Liberty
Yes,
with Big Sarge. Yeah, that's who I work with him and stuff like that. They're cool
dude.
people.
Please consider sending some love his way via Patreon or Cash App, which will be linked in the show notes and on my Instagram page.
If you have a favorite video essayist,
Hmm.
like comment on their videos as much as you can
Hmm.
and like all their videos as much as you can because the video essay, I don't know if you've noticed, but video essays on YouTube have been suffering viewership
Yeah.
issues because like YouTube is striking out on them. So like if you have a favorite video essayist, show them as much love and support as you can.
Kendall Ray and Danielle Hallen's YouTube channels were once again foundational to my research. I would also be remiss if I didn't direct you all to Say Her Name, the documentary about Sandy Bland's case on HBO Max. Her family was very involved in its production, and they should be proud of how far Sandy's voice has traveled. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Georgia Leah Moses, please contact the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office at 707-565-2185. That's 707-565-2185. That's all for now, friends. This podcast was created, researched, written, produced, and edited by Sarah McDonald, with music by Zoe Blade. Views expressed on the podcast are my own or those of my guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of Southwestern Oklahoma State University or its faculty. Special thanks to Southwestern Oklahoma State University's Hilltop Theater, Professor Jessica Salmons-Meditz, Professor Stephen Dowdy, Dr. Matthew Dorr, and Jonathan Wynn for their help and mentorship through this project. Infinite hugs to Dylan, Cass, Joe, Shelley, Des, Lex, and Shy for putting up with my crazy writing schedule and my constant requests for feedback. Dedicated with love to Mrs. Rachel Anderson, my 8th grade English teacher, who made me believe I could do this.